When the Republic P-47 Thunderbolt first appeared in 1942, many pilots doubted it would ever work in combat. It was bulky, overweight, and looked more like a flying milk bottle than a sleek warplane. But within just 2 years, that same jug would become one of the most feared fighter bombers in the entire European theater. The P-47 was born from Alexander Kartvel's vision, a heavy, high-altitude escort fighter with the massive Pratt & Whitney R2800 double wasp engine. The design prioritized raw power and survivability over elegance. It could take hits that would have shredded most other aircraft and still make it home. When the first models reached England in late 1942, American pilots didn't know what to think. It was the largest single-engine fighter they had ever seen. The cockpit sat high like a fortress, and the engine's roar could shake the airfield. At first, the plane's reputation wasn't impressive. Pilots complained that it climbed slowly and turned poorly. Against nimble German Bf-109s and FW-190s, the early Thunderbolts seemed outclassed. Finding its strength, but what the P-47 lacked in agility, it made up for in speed, dive performance, and toughness. The double wasp engine could push the plane past 420 miles per hour in level flight, and in a dive, the jug was nearly unstoppable. German pilots who tried to follow it down often lost control and crashed before catching up. American pilots soon learned a new style of air combat: hit hard, dive away, and climb back up for another strike. This boom and zoom tactic became the jug's signature, and it worked brilliantly. Into combat. By early 1943, Thunderbolts began flying escort missions for American bombers over occupied Europe. It was a dangerous job. B-17 and B-24 crews were being torn apart by German fighters and flak. The P-47's job was to keep them alive. At first, the short range of the P-47 limited its usefulness. It could only accompany the bombers partway to the target before having to turn back. But with the arrival of drop tanks and improved fuel systems, the jug's range grew, allowing it to stay with the bombers deeper into Germany. That's when everything changed. Once it had the range, the P-47 began showing its true potential. Its 8 50-caliber Browning machine guns delivered a storm of lead that could shred an enemy fighter or tear locomotives, trucks, and tanks apart on the ground. And with armor-piercing and explosive ammunition, it became a flying buzzsaw. Pilots quickly learned to trust their jug. It could take unbelievable punishment: flak holes, damaged controls, even engine fires, and still limp home. Stories spread through air bases of Thunderbolts returning with half a tail missing or cylinders shot out, landing safely while other planes would have gone down in flames. By mid-1944, newer fighters like the P-51 Mustang began to take over long-range escort duties. But the Thunderbolt found a new and equally important mission: ground attack. Now it was unleashed at low altitude, hunting German trains, trucks, bridges, and troops. With bombs, rockets, and those 8 heavy machine guns, it became a flying tank, a nightmare for the Wehrmacht. P-47s destroyed convoys, rail lines, and communication hubs, crippling German supply routes as Allied forces advanced after D-Day. German soldiers called it the machine that spits death. They could hear its distinct whistle before the attack, the terrifying sound of a jug diving out of the clouds. In air-to-air combat, the Thunderbolt was finally proving its worth. Pilots like Francis Gabby Gabreski and Robert S. Johnson became legends. Gabreski scored 28 kills in the jug before being shot down and captured, while Johnson survived a mission with over 200 holes in his aircraft and still made it home. By late 1944, the Thunderbolt was everywhere. It wasn't the fastest or prettiest plane in the sky, but it was relentless, dependable, and brutally effective. When the war ended in 1945, the P-47 had flown more than 746,000 combat sorties and destroyed over 86,000 enemy vehicles. Its pilots credited it with saving thousands of bomber crews and ground troops. Even after the war, Thunderbolts served in air forces around the world, from Latin America to Asia, proving its rugged design could adapt long after the conflict ended. In the skies of Europe, where it once seemed outmatched, the flying milk bottle had become a symbol of American strength and endurance. The Thunderbolt wasn't graceful. It didn't glide or dance like a Spitfire, but it fought like a heavyweight. Powerful, determined, impossible to kill. For the men who flew it, the P-47 wasn't just an airplane. It was a companion, a protector, and often a lifesaver. From the cold airfields of England to the burning skies over France and Germany, the Jug earned the respect of everyone, friend and foe alike. In the end, the P-47 Thunderbolt wasn't remembered for its beauty, but for its courage. It showed the world that strength, resilience, and innovation could turn a clumsy design into a war hero. So when you hear that deep roar of the R-2800 engine in old footage, remember, that's not just the sound of metal and fuel. That's the voice of the Jug, the fighter that refused to die and helped win the war.